Welcome to Biff's Mystery Theater. I have many tales to tell you. Ghost stories, murder stories, and tales that will make your bones chill. Join me, won't you? For Theater of the Mind, where you always have the best seat in the house. Now close your eyes and turn off the lights.
You are trapped in the dank darkness of a ruined plantation house, and somewhere in the pitch-black room is a homicidal maniac armed with a knife, groping for you, trying to prevent your escape.
Escape, produced by William N. Robeson, directed tonight by Richard Sanville, and carefully plotted to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape to a deserted sandpit off the coast of Georgia, where terror stalks under the Spanish moss, as Joseph Hergesheimer tells it in Wild Oranges.
What could have appeared more innocent of danger than that barren, low-lying shore of southern Georgia? What could have seemed less laden with terror than that lovely little cove, so tranquil and well-sheltered, so warmly bathed in late afternoon sun as we dropped the anchor of our ketch and prepared our mooring? And yet there was something. First it was an odor of a grove of wild orange trees in late bloom, growing defiantly amid the tangled undergrowth of the shore. The scent was strong and exotic and heady, and as I smelled it, I felt a vague uneasiness. Then as I watched the shore and Halvard, sole member of my crew, furled the sails, the mirror of the cove was shattered by a movement. First I thought it was a fish leaping and playing in the water. It came round a spit of land from an inner bay, and then Halvard was beside me.
That's queer, sir.
Huh?
I would have bet there was nobody within miles of here. But there's someone swimming.
Huh? Yes. It's a girl.
Aye. She'll be surprised when she discovers us, no doubt.
And embarrassed. Oh, she swims well, doesn't she? As if she's been born in the water.
Yeah, that she's seen us.
Yes. Now she's running away. That sprint would win an Olympic race. Wonder what she's doing here, where she comes from.
Perhaps there.
Where?
Through the trees, there's a house. You can hardly see it. I spotted it a moment ago.
Oh, yes, so there is. Oh, but it's a ruin. It's rotting away. No one could have lived in that since the Civil War.
Well, there may be others back there.
Yes, but this coast is deserted. Marked as swamp on the chart.
Well, I don't know, sir.
It's strange. Very strange. Yes, it was strange. And stranger still was this vague uneasiness I felt. As twilight fell, the aroma of the wild oranges was overpowering. Suddenly, without knowing why, I slipped on a jacket, went to the side and dropped into the tender. Halvard stood by to cast off. He asked no questions, and I said nothing. What could I say? I didn't know myself why I was going. I pulled the tender up on the soft sand of the beach and walked up a dim path through the orange grove. The scent of the blossoms was full of such wild sweetness that I picked an orange and tasted it. It was bitter, but of a pungence that was new and rare and strangely delicious. The dim moonlight only accentuated the ruin of the house. There were other smaller, ramshackle buildings scattered about, overgrown with weeds and creeping vines. This had once been a great plantation. Now it lay still and lifeless. Then I saw the light, Round the side were a smaller portico held off the weeds. A single doorway was framed in the pale light of an inner lamp. As I approached, I saw a shadow move across it, so swiftly, so furtively, that it was gone before I realized it had been a man. Then I saw her, sitting on the portico, rocking softly in her chair.
What do you want?
Nothing. When I came ashore, I thought no one was living here.
You're from the white boat that sailed in at sunset?
Yes, and I'm returning immediately.
It was like magic. Suddenly, without a sound, you were anchored in the bay.
I've robbed you, too. Some of your oranges are in my pocket.
You won't like them. They've run wild. We can't sell them.
They have a distinct flavor of their own. I should be glad to have some on my boat.
All you want.
My man will get them and pay you.
Please, don't. Oh, Nicholas attends to that. Won't you sit down? My father was here when you came up, but he went in. Strangers trouble him.
Oh, I should be getting back. I'm sorry to have disturbed you and your father.
No, it was nothing.
Good night, then.
Good night.
That was all. Fragment of commonplace conversation, but it was enough. Now the uneasiness I felt, the strangeness of this place took shape for me. I saw it in her lovely, fragile face. I heard it in her voice. There'd been a hidden terror, a terrible, controlled fright that approached hysteria. There'd been a warning in it, and something else, a plea. By the time I got back to the boat, I was completely unnerved, and Halvard made matters worse.
You find anything, sir?
There are people living there.
Well, there'll be water then. Maybe we could stay here a couple of days, huh?
What do you mean?
Well, this is good anchorage, sir. I'd like to unship the propeller, and the topside could do with a coat of varnish.
No, we're going on south.
Aye, sir.
No, wait, Halvard. Of course, you're right. We need a couple of days' work before we head into blue water. We'll do it here. And so we stayed. In the light of morning, the strange dread I'd felt seemed foolish, and especially when I went ashore and found the girl looking young and fresh and fragile, fishing off the little pier in the inner bay. She had a pathetic little rod and line, so I got our tackle from the boat and landed a big rockfish for her, enough for several dinners. We were carrying the fish to the house when we came on a pale, thin ghost of a man sitting on the portico. He started a swift retreat, but too late.
Father, wait. This is my father, Litchfield Stoop.
How do you do, sir?
Millie, you all know I can't. Strangers, they...
Father, you must manage yourself better. You know I wouldn't bring anyone to the house who would hurt us. And see, we're fetching you a splendid rockfish.
Oh, yes. So you are. We are alone here, sir. The man is away, my daughter and I. The fish, yes, acceptable.
If you will carry it in for me. Nicholas would do it, but he's away. And Father isn't strong. This way. We have no ice. I must put it in water. In here, right there. Thank you. You've been very nice. Now I suppose you'll go on across the world.
Not tonight. We're staying here, making repairs.
Where do you come from? And where are you going?
From Cape Cod. I'm going to the Guianas.
Isn't that South America? I've traveled far. On maps. I was born here in this house, and I've never been 50 miles away.
Oh, that's incredible. You seem like a girl who's been everywhere in the world and had the best education, everything.
My father has many books in there, that's all.
Your eyes are remarkable. Gray-green, like olive leaves, and magnetic. I came ashore to ask you if you had a large water supply and if I might fill my casks.
Of course. Rainwater, the cistern's full.
I'll send my man Halvard then.
Yes.
There's something else in your eyes, in your voice. What is it? Fear?
Fear? Why, no, of course not. What should I be afraid of?
I don't know. But I saw it in your father's face, too.
It's only your imagination.
Yeah. Yes, no doubt. Goodbye, then. Thank you for the fishing. Strange how this girl should upset me so. I tried to resist, but that evening I found myself going back to her. Tying the tender to the little pier, I watched as she came to meet me.
I'm glad you came. The fish waited...
Oh, don't tell me. I'd rather not know. I might be tempted to mention it in the future, and I'm sure it would sound like a fish story.
But it was imposing. Nicholas waited. He's our man. He's back. Let's stay here by the sea. It's so lovely in the moonlight.
All right. Oh, it is nice here.
I lied to you today about fear. I suppose I am afraid. I suppose my father has passed some of his fear on to me.
Why is he afraid?
Well, that's a long story going back to the First War.
Please tell me.
Well, he was a young man then, and he didn't go to war. It wasn't that he was a coward exactly. He just couldn't adjust to it mentally. People mocked him, laughed at him, and threatened him. That's when a sort of perpetual fear started. He ran away. He met my mother and married her. They came here. None of us has ever left this lonely place. Never will, perhaps.
Your mother?
She's dead. Loneliness killed her. Perhaps it's no wonder that I sound timid or afraid. Perhaps I am.
Aren't you lonely, too?
I don't know anything else. But what about you? Who are you that you go sailing about the world with only your sailor for company?
Oh, I'm nobody. My name is John Woolfolk.
And you do nothing but sail about the world?
Nothing.
Why?
Well, let's say I don't like modern society. Let's say I don't like entanglements.
I see.
Oh, I didn't mean...
You needn't apologize. I envy you your freedom. I sit here a great deal and watch the ships far out there on their water roads. You are enviable. Sailing where you like. Safe and free. Safe and free.
There is something more than you've told me. More behind this fear in your voice.
No.
But perhaps I can help.
No, please.
What's that?
It's Nicholas! Blowing on the conch. I've got to go in.
I'll come with you.
No, please. No, don't come. You'll be going soon.
Tomorrow, perhaps.
Then, goodbye. Goodbye.
Now I knew the terror I'd only sensed was real. This girl was possessed by fear. This house held some terrible secret. What could it be? Next morning, Halvard suggested we repaint the engines, and I agreed. We'd stay another day or two. Later, Halvard went in to fill a cask of water. He came back without the cask and livid with rage.
There was an idiot in that house. Next time I'll take the pistol.
What do you mean? Where's the cask?
It was broken.
How?
He was filling it at the cistern, and this idiot, a huge hulking brute, came out of the house. He told me to get away. Well, I tried to explain that we had permission, but he came at me with a knife, gibbering. Well, I hit him, but it was like hitting an ox. He put his foot on the cask and crushed it.
I'll see about this.
You be careful, sir. The man's not right. He's dangerous. Plenty dangerous.
I went ashore and around to the back door of the house. Millie wasn't in sight, and when I knocked, a lumbering giant with pig-like eyes came to the door.
What do you want?
I take it you're Nicholas, the man who broke my water cask.
It's full of all water.
I'm not going to argue with you. I came ashore to instruct you to keep your hands off my property and my sailor.
Let our water be.
I told you I wouldn't discuss the matter. I don't have to justify myself to you. Just remember, keep your hands
Don't
off.
get me started.
What do you mean, started?
Here, don't get me started. Mind, I warned you. Don't
put
get
down
me
that
started.
knife.
Go away now. Don't get me started.
Stand
Go
back.
away. Don't get me started. I'm telling you.
Nicholas, stop. What is this? What's the matter?
Nothing. Nicholas and I have had a little misunderstanding, that's all. It's nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about, I said. But when I got back to the boat, I couldn't help asking myself why I'd left her with that brute. I just about made up my mind to go ashore again to check up when I saw her waving on the beach. She wanted to visit the boat. I went and got her. There was no hint of terror in her face now, just shining, girlish wonderment at the polished metal and the gleaming wood of the ketch. I offered to take her for a sail, and her face lighted up like a child's. But when we reached the heavy swells outside the reef, her face got white, and she froze.
It's so big.
Are you frightened? I'll turn back.
I'd rather you didn't. I must learn. I'm not a child.
No, we're going back. Before we got to the anchorage, her panic was almost out of control. But safely moored once more, she calmed slowly and said,
How strange. To be forced back to this place I loathe by my own cowardice.
It's not cowardice. The sea is frightening to those unused to it. Come, you must forget it now. How about we'll have tea for us in a moment? How do you like our boat?
It's quite wonderful. Have you nothing else to care for? No place or people on land?
None.
And you're satisfied?
Hardly. All the things most men value were taken from me in an instant.
Can you talk about it?
I haven't for 12 years. Not to anybody, but now, yes, I think I can. You see, we were just married. Only a few days, and we were very, very happy. Then, in one instant, she was dead. It was a silly, stupid accident thrown from a horse, without rhyme or reason.
So you left everything, taking your revenge on the world.
You could put it that way, I suppose. I simply don't want to take a second chance to become involved and be hurt.
But that's living. To be hurt. Do you think you can escape so easily?
I don't know.
Oh! I must go. Father will be waiting.
Why so suddenly? Oh, yes, I see. That's Nicholas on the beach looking out here, isn't it?
Yes. Dinner will be ready.
Why do you have a servant like that? That man's dangerous.
You mustn't say that. Please don't. Just take me in. Please.
Now I knew that she too was afraid of Nicholas. I could see it in her eyes. Why then did I let her go to him? I don't know. I was confused, I guess. That night a storm broke, a raging wind and rain, and to match my tortured mood. I hardly slept. Her face was always before my eyes, and by morning I knew that I must do something. I rode the tender in through a drizzling rain. I went up through the orange grove and stopped in the bushes by the house. Someone was coming out of the house, and I crouched down out of sight. It was Millie. I rose and called her. Millie!
Oh, it's you. I was just coming out to look. I was afraid you'd gone out. The sea is like a pack of wolves.
I won't go alone, not without you.
What are you saying? That's madness.
No, I've got to talk to you, Millie. There's a lot that needs explaining. Things that I have a right to know.
No, not here. Come.
She led me into one of the smaller ruined buildings, what must have been a store in the days of the Great Plantation. We crouched far back in the dripping shadows of a corner.
Now.
Millie, I love you. For the first time in 12 years, I'm living again, and I love you.
I know nothing of love.
It's easily learned.
Well, perhaps if things were different, someplace else, I might care very much.
Then I'm going to take you away someplace else, make things different, give you the chance.
No, it's too late. You came too late.
Why, Millie? Why? What is it? What is it you fear?
Nicholas.
Oh, he's nothing. Nothing to be afraid of. Has he been bothering you?
He says he's crazy about me. He says I must marry him.
Where is he now?
No, you mustn't, John. Something frightful would happen.
Not frightful, just unfortunate for Nicholas.
You don't understand. He's not human. There's something about him.
What about him?
He came here in April. We were glad to get him. Servants are impossible to get back here in the wilderness. He would work for the smallest wages. Only a few days ago, I found out why he was glad to be here. I was cleaning his room, and I found this.
Let's see. Wanted for murder. Iska Nicholas, homicidal maniac.
He knows I found it. He knows. And he's been furious. Then you came, and he ran and hid in the pines. But he told me if I spoke about it, then it would happen to me. And if I left with you, it would happen to Father. You see, he thinks I'm in love with you. He told me to send you away. He said you must leave today.
Millie, I should have realized.
He says I must not be away for longer than an hour. I must go.
Look, Millie, it'll take us a couple of hours to get the boat ready. I'll come for you tonight at 8. Now, tell him you saw me and I promised to go. And act quietly. Say you've been upset. You'll give him his answer tomorrow. Then at 8, bring your father and walk out to the wharf. That's all. but do it without hesitation or preparation.
Oh, don't let him hurt us. Oh, please don't.
Not now. He's finished, Millie. But do as I say. It won't be long, hardly 3 hours, and then freedom. Now that I knew, now that there was to be action, I felt better. Halvard and I got the ketch ready for sailing, and 8 o'clock we tied it up to the little pier. The storm had abated slightly, but it was still raining. I got up on the dock and waited for Millie. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Something was wrong. I told Halvard to wait there with the tender. Then I walked slowly up to the house. It was dark. I went up to the side portico to the heavy door. A tiny crack of light showed under it. I pushed it open. The light came from a parlor to the right. I looked in. On the floor lay a body. Old Litchfield Stope. He was dead, crushed. His arm twisted grotesquely under him. There was not a sound in the house. Slowly I walked through the downstairs rooms. Nothing. And back in the hall I heard a slight creak. Upstairs someone had moved. Was it Millie, alive? Or Nicholas, lying in wait? I groped slowly up the stairs. I dared not use my flashlight. It would have made me a target for his knife. The upstairs hall was pitch black, and still there was no sound. I inched my way along the wall, slowly. Then I stumbled on a loose board. The pistol flew out of my hand, but the stumble saved my life. The same instant I felt Nicholas lunge. Heard the knife sing past my ear and thud into the wall. Felt his great bulk smashing on my shoulders. My gun was somewhere on the dark floor. His knife was embedded in the wall. Now we were grappling hand to hand, rolling on the floor, kicking, tearing, gouging, crushing. My strength and wit against the massive bulk of a maniacal killer. How many minutes did that unequal struggle last? I don't know. It seemed an hour. Several times, as if by common consent, we rested for minutes at a time, locked in tight embrace. Once we rolled apart and lay panting, the breath aching in my throat. Then I heard him groping along the wall, searching for the knife or the gun. I threw myself on him again, but he was too big, too furious. I felt my strength ebbing away. His fingers were closing over my throat. With one last effort, I tried to throw him off, to roll him over. I staggered dazedly to my feet and looked up. He'd fallen through the banister down the stairwell. Nicholas had landed on the bottom. He lay there on the stairs, sprawled, his head at a grotesque angle. But he was not dead, only stunned. I leaned against the wall, looked at him stupidly. There was something I was trying to remember. What was it? Then she came down the steps, and I remembered. Millie.
I had to walk right past him. There was no other way. Right past his head and my skirt. I think we better go away. It's quite impossible here with him in the hall where you have to pass so close.
Millie, yes, we'll leave at once.
I must tell you about my father. You know, in Virginia, the women tied an apron on the door because he would not go to war, and that preyed on his mind, and he was afraid of the slightest thing.
Yes, I know, but we must go.
Things upset him so. He had no strength.
To hear her talk like this, like a sick child, was almost more than I could bear. But now I heard something. Nicholas had gotten up. He stood there and stared for a moment at us. Then he started slowly up the stairs. He was going for the knife.
This little thing upset him.
Millie, we've got to go.
I was to meet a man. We were going away someplace where it'd be peaceful. He said at 8 o'clock. But Nicholas suspected, you see. He asked why Father had put on his heavy winter clothes. Then when I tried to go out, he pushed me.
Millie.
And do you know what Father did then? He came up and he said, "Don't do that. Take your hands off my daughter." His lips shook a little, but he said it. That's the important thing.
Yes, of course. Your father was a brave man after all. Now come, that man is waiting for you. There's no time to lose.
Father said, "Take your hands off my daughter." Nicholas killed him, of course. Crushed him like a little mosquito. But it was a brave thing to do.
I couldn't wait any longer. I had to risk whatever injury it might do to her mind. I could hear Nicholas coming back. I swept her up in my arms and carried her out into the night, down the path to the little pier. Behind me, I could hear Nicholas crashing through the brush like a giant animal in pursuit.
Are you all right, sir?
Yes, about done in, but all right. Here, help me get her in the boat.
Yes, sir. There. Somebody's coming.
It's Nicholas. He's got a knife.
Good. They wanted to get back at him. You get in, sir. I'll take care of him.
Halvard went to intercept Nicholas on the path. I heard them meet and struggle for a moment. Then a stooped figure came walking slowly onto the pier. I prepared to shove the boat out into the water, and then...
All right, sir. It's me.
Oh, Halvard. Where's Nicholas?
They stopped him. He was all pumped out.
Are you hurt?
No, just a scratch. I missed his knife at first in the dark. It's nothing.
Good. Let's get away from here, then. I held Millie in my arms as Halvard rowed to the ketch erratically, I suppose, because of the storm. We were ready to cast off in 2 minutes. The last obstacle would be the narrow passing out of the cove. In this storm, it would be dangerous, very dangerous. I started to take Millie into the cabin.
No! There's Nicholas! In the doorway!
Nonsense. Nicholas is dead. You're on my boat, Millie. You're safe, Millie.
Safe? With John Woolfolk?
I am John Woolfolk.
But you didn't come.
Yes, I did, Millie. And you're safe. Come.
I want to stay here.
All right. You sit here beside Halvard. I'm going up front to take soundings.
In this van, you won't be able to hear me if I call.
No, but you can hear me. Remember, we've only 3 feet clearance. You'll have to hold it steady through the passage.
Yeah, I'll manage it.
Halvard, this is no time for pretense. How do you feel?
All right. I've taken knives before. Just a scratch.
All right, we'll fix it as soon as we get outside. Now let's go. Turn over the engines. Pull up anchor. The boat headed into the tearing wind of the storm, sped swiftly toward the narrow inlet. A foot too far on either side, and we would hit. In this sea, that would mean death for us all. I stood far up on the bow, taking soundings, feeling out the passage. Fore! The howling wind carried my call back to Halvard. The boat veered. I realized he must have lost a lot of blood. Halvard! Halvard, steady her! Slowly, haltingly, it came around. 3.5! Steady now! But it was anything but steady. The boat wavered and swung as if an amateur hand were on the wheel. In a moment, we might hit. 3.25! We were in the passage. Hold steady, Halvard! Steady! For just another moment. Just one moment. 3.5! We're through! Good boy, Halvard! Good boy, Halvard, I called. But when I went back, it was not Halvard at the wheel. It was Millie. Millie, her hands steady, her eyes washed clear of any madness. Millie with a tight little smile on her face, but no fear. And Halvard lay rolling with the swells in the bottom of the cockpit.
I'm afraid he's dead, John. He was wounded worse than you thought.
Halvard dead?
He told me to take the wheel, that it was life or death. Then he slid down like that.
When? When was this?
Back there in the passage, just when you said 3.5. I'm afraid I wasn't very good, but I held on.
Oh, Millie, you were wonderful.
No, not yet. But I'll learn, John. I'll learn.
Escape is produced by William N. Robeson and was directed tonight by Richard Sanville. You have just heard Wild Oranges by Joseph Hergesheimer, adapted for radio by John Dunkel, with Paul Frees as John Woolfolk, Jeanette Nolan as Millie Stopes, Bill Conrad as Halvard, Jack Crucian as Nicholas, and Sherry Hall as Litchfield Stopes. The special musical score was conceived and conducted by Cy Fuhrer. Next week...
You've planned it very well. She's dead, and you feel no remorse. Your escape has worked out perfectly. There's nothing to worry about, except perhaps an unexpected Christmas present.
Next week, we escape with John Collier's grim story, Back for Christmas. Good night, then, until this same time next week, when once again we offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Did you lose an election bet yesterday? Feel a bad cold coming on? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape.
You were groping in the midnight dimness of a gigantic department store, and suddenly you realize that you're not alone. But 100 eyes are glaring at you from the shadows, 100 hands reaching for your throat, and your most urgent desire is to escape.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully plotted to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape to the dark labyrinth of a giant department store in the dead of night, and to a fantastic world of night dwellers, as John Collier imagines it in his eerie story, Evening Primrose.
Sadie? Sadie, hey, what's the matter? It's me.
Oh, Sam, you nearly scared me to death. What do you mean coming in so quiet?
Hey, I didn't mean to scare you. I thought you'd be asleep. I didn't want to wake you.
Oh, Sam, I'm glad you're home.
Hey, what's the matter?
Oh, it's terrible. You gotta do something, Sam.
What's terrible?
It's this. Just look at this.
What's terrible about that? Looks like an ordinary pad of paper to me.
Yeah, that's just it. That's just what I thought. But it's got writing in it. It's awful.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe you better tell me what this is all about.
Well, today I went shopping down at Bracey's department store.
Yeah?
I needed some writing paper, so I picked this up. It was on top of the pile, and bought it and brought it home. But tonight when I opened it, I found it's got writing in it.
Well, that's nothing so terrible. Just take it back tomorrow and make him give you a new one.
Oh, no, you don't understand. It's what's written in it that's so terrible.
What do you mean, what's written in it?
Here, you gotta read it.
Oh, Sadie.
No, right now. Read it.
Look, Sadie, I'm tired. I've been bowling all
Please,
evening.
Sam, please. Just read it.
All right, for Pete's sake. October 13. Today I made my decision. I decided to say goodbye to the world, to get out, leave, break away. And I have done it. Oh, Sadie, there's a lot of...
Go on, read.
And now I am free. Really free.
Yes, I am free at last. The world is an intolerable place for a poet. I was broke, starving, at my wits' end. And then I had a brilliant idea. I would escape to a place where I had no need to earn a living, where I could write to my heart's content in peace and security. Where is this place? Right under your nose. So close you'd never think of it. I am now living in Bracey's department store. I have everything within arm's reach that anyone would need or desire. And it's all free. Absolutely free. I arrived this afternoon. I'd spent 3 days looking over all of the department stores in town. I decided on Bracey's because of the completeness of their food department. Therefore, this afternoon, I entered the store and went immediately to the 4th floor, to the rug department, and hid myself in this dusty, out-of-the-way corner behind a pile of carpets. Once I'm settled, I'll furnish it with the best of modern pieces from the furniture department. It's small, but I'll be cozy enough. And safe. After the store closed, I made my first venture out. I tiptoed as far as the stationery counter and got this paper, the writer's primary need. Now, after making my initial entry, I'll go out and get food, wine, the pillows for my bed, perhaps a fancy dressing gown. This is perfect. I'll be able to write here. Dawn, October 14th. I'm almost too unnerved to write this. The whole thing is unbelievable. After the store was dark and completely quiet, I crept out and started for the food department. One's footsteps echo hollowly in an empty department store at night, and I found myself gliding along the floor on tiptoe, moving as silently as possible. But the sound of footsteps persisted. Suddenly I realized they were not my own. The night watchman. I was in the Salon Moderne. Quickly I seized a mink coat from a hanger, draped it about my shoulders, and stood stock still. I could have reached out and touched him, but he passed by without so much as a glance. I started to smile, but the smile froze on my lips. There was someone else here. I was looking straight into a pair of eyes. Large, flat, luminous, inhuman eyes peering at me from among the Mrs. Tailored suits a dozen feet away. They belonged to a creature dressed as a man, but he was as pale as a creature found under a stone. His hands hanging motionless at his sides looked more like the fins on a fish than human hands. And then he spoke.
Not bad for a beginner.
I'm sorry. I didn't know anybody else lived here.
Oh, yes. We live here. It's delightful.
We?
Yes, all of us. Don't you see? Look around you.
I looked around. I saw nothing. I looked again. I saw an old man come clambering out from behind a clock. There were 3 elderly ingenues, incredibly emaciated, pale as lace, almost transparent, simpering before the perfume counter. A chintzy lady swam out from the curtains and drapes. They came swarming thick around me, pale, thin, wispy, moving silently, fluttering like gauze in the wind, whispering.
How raw he looks.
Who is he?
As coarse as the sun.
What is he doing here?
A detective. Send for the dark men.
Yes, send for the dark men.
The dark men.
They were pressing around me, clawing, holding me, their pale faces contorted with venomous, inhuman hatred. I was paralyzed. All I could do was repeat over and over again, I'm not a detective, I'm not a detective, I'm not!
A burglar, then.
A burglar? Tie him up.
Hold him, carry him to the place.
Send for the dark men.
Stop. Let him speak.
I'm not a detective. Or a burglar. I'm a poet.
Then what are you doing here?
I've renounced the world. I came here to live where I could be alone. Away from the world.
Why then, he's come over to us. He's just like us.
He's come over to us. A poet.
He must meet Mrs. Vanderpant.
Yes, Mrs. Vanderpant. She's coming now.
I followed their eyes toward the balcony. There, coming down the wall like an ancient spider, clambered an old lady. Wrinkled and cracked and emaciated, she must have been at least 80, a shadowy matriarch. And the things around me bowed and scraped as she reached the floor and floated toward us.
What's going on here? Where is that stupid girl? What's keeping her?
Oh, Mrs. Vanderpant.
Well, what is it? Who's this, Mr. Roscoe?
Mrs. Vanderpant, may I present Mr.
Snell, Mr. Snell, Mr. Charles Snell.
Yes, of course. Mr. Snell. He is a poet, and he's come here to live.
Oh, he has he?
That's what he says, and I believe him.
Well...
he avoided the night watchman quite neatly, for a beginner.
Well, thank you.
Very well. We shall see.
A poet should find inspiration here.
Mr. Snell, Mrs. Vanderpant is our grand old lady.
Oh?
I am quite the oldest inhabitant here, Mr. Snell. 3 mergers and a complete rebuilding. But they didn't get rid of me.
Oh, really? How nice.
Where is Ella? Where is my broth?
She's bringing it, Mrs. Vanderpant.
Oh, terrible little creature. She is our foundling, Mr. Snell. She's not quite our sort.
Is that so?
I have been here, Mr. Snell, ever since the terrible times of the 80s. I was a young girl then. A beauty, they say. And poor Papa lost his money. Braces meant a lot to a young girl in those days. So when I wasn't able to have a charge account, I came here for good. That's better than a charge account. I was quite alarmed when others began to come after the crash of 1907. But it was the dear judge.
How do you do?
Yes.
The colonel.
How do you do?
Yes.
Mrs. Bilby.
How do you do?
Miss Bilby.
Mrs. Bilby writes plays.
Oh.
And comes of an old Philadelphia family. Oh, you will find us quite nice here, Mr. Snell.
I'm sure I will.
And, of course, all our dear young people came in 1929. Their poor papas jumped from skyscrapers. They couldn't bear to be without charge accounts either.
Do you mean all these people live here?
Oh, and many more. You shall meet them all later.
Oh, here comes Ella with my broth.
Come, you stupid thing.
Mrs. Vanderpant is waiting.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm coming as fast as I can.
Now,
Here.
be careful. Don't spill it.
Oh, but she's young.
Well, of course, she is a little younger than most of them.
And she's different. She's beautiful.
Mr. Snell, Ella is Mrs. Vanderpant's maid.
That's right, old man. She's really not our sort at all.
You shouldn't say such things. She can hear you.
Oh, that doesn't matter.
You'll understand these things better after you've been here a while.
But it seems to me that you would...
Mr. Snell, we have certain rules here. They are necessary for our survival. I'm sure you won't find it hard to observe them.
Well, yes, I appreciate...
I should advise that you try. If you do not, that would be most unfortunate, Mr. Snell. Most unfortunate for you.
October 15th. You can imagine my feelings last night. My first thought was to escape as quickly as possible. In fact, I planned to wait till morning when the store opened, then quit my hiding place, mingle with the crowds, and leave Bracy's forever. But just at dawn, Mr. Roscoe brought me a cup of coffee, which must have been drugged, for I fell asleep. And when I awoke, I found I had slept all day, and night was closing over the store once more. Later, I've spent my second night here. I saw Ella again. Ella, the pearl of this remote, fantastic cave. She's not like the others, a trifle pale, but otherwise normal and human and beautiful. A child of perhaps 18. She's the only thing that makes this nightmare bearable. October 20th. Escape seems almost impossible. There's a very effective burglar alarm system and the doors are all carefully guarded. But that's nothing compared to the Dark Men. Who are the Dark Men? I don't know. But they threaten any transgressor with these Dark Men. I shall try to discover who they are. At least I am sure I'm watched, though they've begun to trust me now. Speaking to the night watchman would be suicide. Even if he believed my fantastic story or didn't shoot me as a burglar, I'm convinced that neither Ella nor I could get out of here alive. She and the night watchman are the only real people here. And how the others hate the night watchman.
Odious, vulgar creature. He reeks of the coarse sun.
Oh, come now, Mrs. Bilby. He's really a personable young man. Very young for a night watchman.
Mr. Snell, sometimes I wonder about your taste.
You mustn't stay so much to yourself, Mr. Snell. You must become better acquainted with our ways.
Yes, old man. You must come to the play tonight. We're going to be entertained with one of Mrs. Bilby's tragic comedies. Love in Shadowland. I'm sure you'll enjoy.
I'm sure I will.
It's really a festive occasion, you know. Wanamaker's is coming over.
Wanamaker's?
Yes. The entire colony over at Wanamaker's is coming here en masse to attend the play.
You mean there are people living in other stores?
Oh, dear, yes. Didn't you know? Of course, the best people live in Braces and Wanamaker's.
Oh, come now, Mrs. Bilby. There's some very nice people at Alton's.
I beg your pardon, Mrs. Bilby.
Oh, hello, Ella.
Good evening, Mr. Snell. Mrs. Bilby.
Well, what is it?
Please, ma'am, I'd so love to see your play tonight. May I have your permission?
Certainly not. You know better than that, you stupid creature. You know where you belong. In the basement for the garbage cans.
But Mrs. Bilby
Hush,
couldn't...
Mr. Snell.
Ella, you're becoming entirely too forward of late. I'd advise you to watch your step. Remember the dark men.
Oh, no, please, Mr. Roscoe. I'll be good. I promise I will. No, please don't send for the dark men. I'm sorry, Mrs. Bilby. Excuse me.
Ella, come back.
Mr. Snell, you forget yourself. Let her go.
But how can you treat her like that? Why do you always frighten her? And what is all this about the dark men?
Well, the dark men...
Oh, please, Mr. Roscoe, not now. You'll spoil our whole evening. And I do so want Mr. Snell to enjoy my play.
Very well. Later, Mr. Snell.
But I want to know about the dark men.
Later.
October 21st. At last I found an opportunity to speak to Ella alone. I hadn't dared to speak to her before. Here one has a sense always of pale eyes secretly watching. But last night at the play I induced a fit of hiccups. As I anticipated, I was sternly reprimanded and told to go and secrete myself in the basement where the night watchman wouldn't hear me. This was exactly what I had planned. I went to the basement. There in the darkness, among the garbage cans and the rats, I heard sobbing. Ella! Ella!
Oh.
Ella, is that you?
Yes?
Why are you crying? What is it, Ella?
They wouldn't even let me see the play.
Is that all?
Oh, Mr. Snell, I'm so unhappy.
There. You mustn't cry.
You're the only one who's kind.
Ella, why are you here? Why do they treat you so differently?
Because I'm not like them. I didn't choose to come here.
You mean you're held prisoner?
Yes. You see, I was only 6. I came here on a shopping tour with my mother. I got lost and fell asleep behind a counter. It was dark when I awoke, and they found me. Some of them wanted to send for the dark men because they were afraid I would tell on them. But Mrs. Vanderpant said no, I could stay and be her maid. I've been here ever since.
Since you were 6? Haven't you ever tried to get away?
Oh, no. I don't know anything about out there. I wouldn't know what to do. Besides, I'm afraid if anyone tries to get out, they send for the dark men.
Ella, who are the dark men?
Don't you know? Oh, it's horrible.
Tell me.
You know how people live in all the stores, at Gimbel's and Bloomingdale's.
Yes, I know.
Well, the dark men live at the Undertaker's.
Good heavens.
And whenever someone dies or breaks the rules, or when a burglar gets in and sees these people and might tell, they send for the dark men.
Oh, horrible.
They put the body in the butcher shop in the food department. And then the dark men come. I saw them once. It was terrible.
What do they do?
They go in where the dead person is. They have wax with them and all sorts of things. And when they're gone, there's just a wax model left on the counter. Then people put a frock on it, or a bathing suit, and mix it up with the other wax models in the windows. And nobody ever knows.
Ella, you mean all these dummies around us?
Oh, not all of them. But if you displease these people, the same thing will happen to you.
October 30th. I haven't kept up my journal. Writing has been out of the question. Once more, I'm frozen with terror. But not for myself now. For Ella. They hate her. Any time they might turn against her and send for the dark men. My mind is filled with her. I dream of her every day. I'd live to see her at night. We've managed it several times. They trust me now and let me roam about without interference. Finally, tonight, I met her again and said it. Ella, I love you.
Oh, Charles.
I love you, Ella. Let's get married. Or whatever they do here. Then we can live together in my home in the carpet department. They wouldn't dare hurt you then.
Oh, Charles,
Don't look so dismayed. If you like, we'll go away from here. Maybe we can get transferred to Bergdorf Goodman's overlooking Central Park.
Don't, Charles, don't. You mustn't.
But I love you. Ella, you're not in love with someone else.
Yes, Charles, I am.
But who? I thought you hated them all. It must be Roscoe. He's the only one that's young enough.
Oh, no, Charles, not Roscoe. Especially not him. I do hate them all. They make me shudder.
Well, who is it then?
It's him.
Who?
The night watchman.
No, impossible.
I love him. He smells of the sun.
Ella.
Oh, it was wonderful the way it happened. Don't tell on me, Charles, or they'll punish me.
Oh, no.
I was careless, and there he was, coming around the corner in the ladies' lingerie department. I was caught. There were only some wax models in their underthings. There was nothing else to do. I slipped off my dress and stood still.
Oh, see.
He stopped and looked at me. And Charles, he spoke to me. He said, "Say, honey, I wish they made him like you on 8th Avenue." Charles, wasn't that a lovely thing to say?
Personally, I should have said Park Avenue.
It doesn't matter what street. It was a lovely thing to say.
But what can you do about him? Ella, he belongs to another world.
Yes, to 8th Avenue. I want to go there. Charles, are you really my friend?
Yes, of course I am.
And I'll tell you, I'm going to stand there again in the lingerie department, so he'll see me.
And then?
Perhaps he'll speak to me again.
Ella, you're only torturing yourself.
No, because this time I shall answer him. He'll take me away.
Take you away? Oh, no, Ella, I couldn't bear that. You don't love him. You only think you do because you think he'll take you out of here, but you don't know that he will. And I will, Ella. I've made up my mind.
No, Charles, I couldn't let you do it. Even if I loved you, you couldn't do it, Charles.
Why not?
Because you really belong here. You've become one of them now.
Ella, you mustn't say that.
It's true. And, Charles, I've got to go. There's someone watching us. I feel it.
No, wait, Ella.
Goodbye, Charles.
No, Ella. Come back. Ella!
Please, old man. You'll arouse the night watchman.
Roscoe.
Yes. Oh, love can be very upsetting, can't it?
You heard?
Yes. Just the last moment or so. Very touching. Yet it's understandable. I've been attracted to Ella myself. So she loves another, Too bad, old boy. Who could it be? Could it be that I am the cause of your heartbreak?
You flatter yourself too much, Roscoe.
Well, then whom? The old judge? Oh, certainly not. The colonel? Hardly.
None of those.
Oh, not one of the customers. The staff?
She loves the night watchman. Can you imagine that? She loves the...
Oh?
Roscoe, I shouldn't have said that. It's not true. At least I don't think it's true. You wouldn't... Roscoe, you said you loved her too. You wouldn't do anything. Tell anybody. This is a secret between us. Between friends, isn't it?
Of course, old man. As secret as the grave.
She's young. Perhaps he'll leave and she'll forget him in time. Who knows? Perhaps she'll learn to love you. Or me.
Of course. In time.
And we'll figure a way to keep her safe here.
Absolutely safe. Now, don't you worry about it. It's almost dawn. Time for bed. Good morning, Mr. Snell.
Early evening, November 4th. I was a fool. I should have known he couldn't be trusted. He must have gone straight to Mrs. Vanderpant because this evening the atmosphere has changed. People flicker to and fro, smiling nervously, horribly with a sort of frightened, sadistic exultation. An informal dance in the record department has been called off. I can't find Ella. I'm going out again now to look for her. Roscoe, what have you done with her?
Shh. Quiet, old boy. The night watchman.
I don't care. What have you done?
Whatever I did was for your own good as well as for the good of us all.
Wait a minute. What is that? What are those people carrying? That's Ella. She's tied up. They're carrying... Ella! Ella!
Stop it, Charles. Stop it.
Oh, let me go.
Oh, stop, Charles. Stop it. You'll arouse the night watchman.
No, they're taking her and into the butcher shop. Roscoe.
Yes. Those are the dark men.
Good Lord. Midnight. I'm scribbling this last entry hurriedly. They are in there in the butcher shop with Ella. The dark men. There's only one thing to do. I'm going to find the night watchman and tell him. He and I will save her, if we can. And if we are overpowered, well, I will leave this pad on the stationery counter. Tomorrow, if I live, I will recover it. If I do not, whoever finds this and reads it, look in the store windows. Look for 3 new wax dummies. 2 men, one rather sensitive looking, and a girl. She has blonde hair and blue eyes, and her nose turns up a little. Look for us, and then find them. Smoke them out. Exterminate them.
Avenge us.
Oh, Sam, isn't it horrible?
Ah.
We gotta do something. Tell somebody something. Oh, Sam, what'll we do?
Do? Well, nothing. Go to bed.
But Sam!
Well, whoever wrote this has sure got a weird sense of humor. It's probably some clerk down at Bracey's who ought to be fired.
But you mean you think it's just a story?
Are you kidding? You don't believe this stuff, do you?
Well, I don't know. I
Oh,
just...
forget it, baby. Come on, snap out of it. I shouldn't leave you alone. You get too many ideas when I go out bowling at night.
But, don't you think maybe we ought to just, take it back and show somebody?
Oh, nuts. It's not worth the bother. They'd laugh at you, baby. They'd think you were crazy or something.
Yeah. I guess you're right. I guess I was silly.
Yeah, forget it. Oh, come on. Let's go to bed. Huh? I'm tired.
Okay, Sam. Gee, you know, there for a while I sure was scared. I even forgot what I was going to tell you. Sam, I found the cutest dress today. Only $19.95.
Yeah, baby?
Yeah. It was in the window at Bracey's. It was on a beautiful little wax model with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a turned-up nose. And there were 2 men standing beside...
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and tonight brought you Evening Primrose by John Collier, adapted for radio by John Dunkel, with Elliot Lewis as Charles Snell, Paul Frees as Roscoe, and Pat Lowry as Ella. The special musical score was conceived and conducted by Cy Pure. Next week...
After you've had a tough day at the office, or leaning over a hot stove, when your 4 walls seem to be closing in on you, next week at the same time when you want to get away from it all, we again offer you Escape.
This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Started your Christmas shopping yet? Worried about where the money's coming from? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape.
You were seated around a green felt table with a dozen desperate men, waiting for the turn of a card. If it's the ace of spades, you will be next. And you desperately desire the impossible. Escape.
Escape. Produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully plotted to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape to London of the last century. A London of gas lights and hansom cabs. A London where a gentleman still valued his word of honor above his life. A London of which one terrifying incident is recorded by Robert Louis Stevenson in his unforgettable story, The Young Man with the Cream Tarts.
Oh, bored?
Or rather.
City seems to offer little amusement tonight.
Well, bottoms up. Let's be on our way.
Righto. Your health.
And yours.
Gentlemen, please have a cream tart. It's absolutely free. My compliments. Madam, will you honor me? Sir, will you honor me?
Well, now, what's this?
A young man with a tray of cream tarts. He's giving them away.
Perhaps one of the turns on the bill.
Perhaps. Shall we go?
Yes, let's.
I pray you accept this confection, for if you do not, I'm bound to eat it myself.
You must be crazy.
I was never more sane. You refuse?
I do.
And there's nothing for it but my 27th tart since 5 o'clock. Now there are but 2 left. You, sir.
Yes?
Will you so far honor an entire stranger? It's really excellent pastry. I should know. I've eaten enough of them.
It is not the nature of a gift that is important, but the spirit in which it is offered.
The spirit, sir, is one of mockery.
Mockery? And whom do you mock?
Myself. However, my purpose at the moment is not confession, but rather distribution of these cream tarts. Won't you and your friend dispose of the last of them?
Yes. Yes, on one condition. If my friend and I eat your last 2 cakes, we shall expect you to join us at supper.
Supper? It's a horrible thought. I've already eaten 2 dozen of these pastries.
Very well, then we shall omit supper and become better acquainted over a bottle of wine.
I'm uncertain whether my repugnance for these 2 remaining tarts or the attraction of your invitation compels me, but I accept.
Excellent. Then let us finish off your pastry and seek a more quiet place.
How about Michelle's in Soho?
Splendid. Shall we go?
An excellent restaurant, excellent wine, and 2 excellent friends. I drink to your health.
And we drink to yours. I'm sure you will understand my curiosity.
But you are curious.
Naturally. Although I suspect that your story is probably a silly one.
Oh, indeed.
You may rest assured that we are 2 of the silliest men in England. My name is Goodall, Theophilus Goodall, and my friend here is Major Alfred Hammersmith.
I like you, Mr. Goodall. And you, Major Hammersmith, though I suspect those are not your right names.
It is of no importance.
Exactly, nor is my name, so I will not divulge it. Although I see no reason why I should deny you my story. It's brief and foolish.
Pray tell us, then.
It's an oft-told tale. A modest fortune which I squandered in the usual ways at cards, the horse races in Paris. Then 2 months ago, I met a young lady exactly suited to my taste in mind and body. My heart melted. I was in love too late. Yesterday, my solicitor warned me that I had but £100 left in the world. 40 of these I used last night for a special purpose, and I have agreeably spent the day disposing of the remaining £60 in as foolish a manner as I could devise.
And the future?
The future has been taken care of by the £40.
Is it not odd that we 3 should have met by the merest accident in so large a wilderness as London and be so nearly in the same condition?
Yes. Major Hammersmith, I was thinking the very same thing.
What's this? Are you 2 also ruined? Is this bottle of excellent wine the last folly, like my cream tarts?
Very nearly so. I'm perhaps a week behind you. I still have a few banknotes in my wallet, however. Here now, this bill will take care of the bottle of wine, and the others I throw into the fire.
Oh, no. You shouldn't have burned all of them. You should have kept £40.
£40? Why?
Why not 50 or 70? For to my certain knowledge, there were more than 100 in his wallet.
It was only just 40 pounds he needed. But without them, there is no admission. The rule is strict.
What do you mean? I have not yet completely emptied my pocketbook.
You are not fooling me. You are indeed ruined men, like me.
Oh, indeed.
Could you muster 80 pounds between you?
Well, let me look in my wallet. Yes, 80 and a little over.
Then you are indeed most fortunate. 40 pounds each is the initiation fee of the Suicide Club.
The Suicide Club? What the devil is that?
The Suicide Club is death's private door. It's the ultimate convenience in our modern world. It exists for unfortunates like us. Those to whom the painful agony of corrosive poison is distasteful. For those whose courage fails them when the cold muzzle chills the forehead. For those whose fear of drowning is greater than their compulsion to die. For these sensitive misfits, the Suicide Club arranges every detail. If you're truly tired of life, I will introduce you tonight to a meeting, and I can assure you that within the week you will be relieved of the burden of living. What do you say? It's more serious than a cream tart, and I suspect more palatable.
More serious, certainly. So I wonder if you would give Mr. Goodall and me 5 minutes alone to discuss it.
Certainly. I shall wait outside.
Your Highness, this adventure must stop here.
Nonsense, Colonel Geraldine. I propose to see this through.
See it through to what? Death? You forget your obligations, not only to yourself, but to your country. Prince Florizel of Bohemia cannot risk...
Tonight I am plain Mr. Godard, and so I propose to remain. And please remember, Colonel Geraldine, under no circumstances are you to betray my incognito.
But, Your Highness...
We have survived graver adventures than this one promises to be. And now, Colonel Geraldine, let us pay our bill and accompany our young wastrel to death's private door.
Here you are, Governor. Box court.
Gentlemen, we have arrived.
Here you are, cabby. Keep the change.
Oh, thank you, sir. Come on.
Well, Mr. Godall, Major Hammersmith, there is still time to change your minds.
Lead on, sir. My mind's made up.
And mine.
Follow me, then.
As dark as a tomb.
An apt and concise simile.
Here we are, gentlemen, at death's private door. Shall we enter?
Pray, let's.
You may hang your things in here. If you'll be good enough to wait, I shall call the president.
Of all our follies, this is the wildest and most dangerous.
I'm beginning to believe you're right.
Let me beseech your Highness
Do not forget you are my aide-de-camp.
Not your father. Yet I am responsible to the king for your well-being.
Colonel Geraldine, you're not afraid.
Certainly not for myself, but for your Highness.
Shh, quiet.
The president will see you in his office. I have vouched for you, but you must give him honest answers. The indiscretion of a single member might lead to the dispersion of the society forever. He can't afford to take that risk. Follow me. In here. He's waiting for you.
Good evening. I am told that you wish to speak to me.
We have a desire, sir, to join the Suicide Club.
Sir, you've made a mistake. This is a private house. You must leave it instantly.
We have come here upon the invitation of a friend of yours. He's already told you of our desires. And believe me, sir, when one has come this far along the path, one is not likely to be turned away and certainly will tolerate little rudeness. Permit me to assure you, either you will oblige us in the matter, or you'll regret ever having admitted us to the premises.
Well, now, that's more like it. This is no place for men not yet desperate. I believe you, sir. But what of your friend?
My reasons are even more cogent than Mr. Goodall's. I was cashiered out of my regiment last week.
Why?
Cheating at cards.
I see. And you, sir? What is your reason for being tired of life?
Unadulterated laziness.
Don't trifle with me, sir. You must have a better reason than that.
I have no more money, and I'm much too lazy to come by any.
If I did not have a great deal of experience in these matters, I would turn you down. But I have learned that the most frivolous excuses for a suicide often cover a deep and lifelong desire for self-destruction.
Thank you for your understanding, sir.
Very well. To business. I shall read you the oath of membership to which you will each subscribe. I swear to obey without question the instructions of the president of this association or any of his appointed deputies. Realizing that desirable death could scarcely be a penalty for violating this oath, I am aware that any violation will be met at the discretion of the president by those means deemed suitable by him. Namely, excommunication from the church, loss of whatever honor still attaches to my name, and, or, when necessary, violent reprisals against my bereaved family. In full knowledge of the sacredness of this oath, I subscribe my name. Well, gentlemen?
You are in a position to enforce those penalties.
I am.
Hand me the pen.
My friend.
The pen, please. Major Hammersmith.
Thank you.
That will be 40 pounds apiece, please.
Here you are.
Thank you. And now, would you like to join the members in the smoking room?
Indeed, we would.
This way, please. Just make yourself at home. Everyone's quite informal here. If you'll pardon me, I have some other matters to attend to.
Come along, Major. Let's mingle with the company.
Your Highness.
Be quiet.
Oh, there you are. You got in all right, I see.
Naturally.
You'll never regret it.
I'm sure we shan't.
Do you care for a game of billiards or perhaps some whist?
No, not immediately, thank you. I should like just to wander around and listen to the conversation.
You'll find it most revealing.
You understand? She had always stood in the way of anything I wanted to do. And I don't care if she was my mother. She crossed me one time too often.
You may be sure that I would never have joined this wretched club if I had not read The Origin of the Species by Darwin. I could not bear to be descended from an ape.
Certainly,
Too
I
ghastly to
understand.
bear, you know.
There are some men who cannot abide the restrictions of the monastery. And after the abbot discovered me, there was nothing I could do.
It's
I don't
incomprehensible
mind
to me.
What is?
Why, this talk, this boasting, this self-justification. If a man has made up his mind to kill himself, let him do it like a gentleman. Be done with the matter.
As I told you, there are some of us more frightened of the act than of the result.
There's only one man in this room who does not seem to be in a state of hysteria.
Who is that, Mr. Godall?
Why, the gentleman sitting on the divan.
Oh, yes. Yes, Mr. Malthus. Would you like to meet him?
Yes, please. These others are too obvious.
There's nothing very subtle about Mr. Malthus. He looks like death himself, wearing thick eyeglasses.
Let us discover for ourselves the reason for his relaxation.
Mr. Malthus.
Eh?
I should like to present two new members, Mr. Godall and Major Hammersmith.
How do you do, gentlemen?
How do you do, Mr.
It's a pleasure, sir.
Won't you sit down?
Well,
Newcomers. Newcomers. I envy you the novelty of your first visit. You will learn to relish it if you are spared. Why, my dear sir, this club, gentlemen, is the temple of intoxication. If my health would permit it, you may be sure I would be here more often. For this is my last dissipation. Believe me, sir, I have tried them all the vices. Yes. People trifle with love and ignorantly call it man's most powerful passion. Nonsense, sir, nonsense. Fear. Fear is the strongest passion. It is fear that you must trifle with if you wish to taste the intense joys of living. Envy me, sir. Envy me. I am a coward.
How, sir, is the excitement so artfully prolonged?
Oh, of course. I must tell you how the victim for every evening is selected, as well as the member who is to be death's high priest for the occasion.
Great heavens. You mean they kill each other?
The guilt of suicide is removed in that way.
Then I, or my friend, or you, any of us, might be selected this evening to murder another man?
Exactly.
But how have they escaped the attentions of the law?
The ingenuity of our president knows no limits. The departures always appear to be accidental.
Oh, it's monstrous.
On the contrary, my dear Major, it is godlike.
Oh, yes, of course.
But, Mr. Malthus, I am still in the dark as to how the members are selected for the evening's work.
Oh, of course, I forgot to explain. But I see that the others are filing into the card room now, and the play is about to begin. You shall see for yourself. Will you lend me the help of your arm? I'm quite paralyzed, you know.
Oh, of course.
Thank you. This is the moment for which I live. The quintessence of poignancy, the ultimate of passion. Coming here as infrequently as I do, I've savored this bitter taste of fear longer than the others. But my turn will come. Who knows? Perhaps tonight.
But how is it done? Tell us what to expect.
Oh, it's so simple. The president deals from an ordinary deck, playing cards, and each man turns up his card as he receives it. The ace of spades, the card of death. Ace of clubs designates the official of the night.
The murderer.
If you like. Here, 3 chairs together. Happy young men. You have good eyes and can follow the cards. I can only make out the faces.
Is everyone here?
My friend, we still have a fighting chance to escape.
Quiet. Let us play the game.
Attention, gentlemen.
3 of clubs. Jack of hearts.
10 of diamonds.
King of clubs.
Queen of hearts.
3 of spades.
9 of clubs.
6 of spades.
Oh, no!
It's our young man of the cream tarts.
He's drawn the ace of clubs.
I came here to be killed, not to kill. I want to
Gentlemen.
die, not murder.
I must caution the members against such unseemly outbursts.
I don't want
Since the ace of spades has not yet turned up, I will continue the deal.
Oh, no. 8 of hearts. 7 of clubs.
King of diamonds.
Jack of spades.
Ace of spades.
Mr. Malthus.
That concludes the play for the night, gentlemen. Will the member who drew the ace of clubs come to my office for his instructions?
Did your highness ring?
Yes. Good morning, Roderick.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, I shall have my breakfast in bed this morning.
Yes, your highness. And Colonel Geraldine has been waiting for you to awaken.
Oh, very well. Show him in.
Thank you, your highness. Colonel, his highness will see you now.
Good morning, Geraldine. Sleep well?
Not too well.
Did I dream it, or were we initiated into the suicide club last night? Seems like a nightmare.
It was a nightmare, but you didn't dream it. Here, look at this, the morning paper.
Huh? Melancholy accident. This morning, about 2 o'clock, Mr. Bartholomew Malthus of 16 Chepstow Place, Westbourne Grove, on his way home from a party at a friend's house, fell off the upper parapet in Trafalgar Square, fracturing his skull. Death was instantaneous. Mr. Malthus, accompanied by a friend, was engaged in looking for a cab at the time
If ever a soul went straight to hell, it was that poor paralytic.
Yes, at least he's dead and out of it. But think of our young man of the cream tarts. Last night, that lad was as innocent as you and I. This morning, he is a murderer.
Well, thank heavens we're safely out of it.
Are we?
Oh, no. You're not going to return.
I must.
You are infected with a passion of fear just as poor Malthus was.
Perhaps. Whatever it is. Tonight, once more, we take our places at the table of the Suicide Club.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Goodall. Back again to try your luck?
Yes, indeed.
And Major Hammersmith?
Good evening.
You are to be congratulated, sir, on the matter of Mr. Malthus. Very neatly handled.
Thank you. But I shall miss poor old Malthy. He was a man I could talk to.
Yes, your bereavement must weigh heavily upon you.
Indeed it does, sir. But then it's all in the game. And now, you will pardon me, we will sit down to play directly.
The fiend. The foul fiend of hell.
Steady, my friend.
Once more, let me plead with you. Leave this evil house before it's too late.
You're very tiresome tonight. Oh, here's our young friend of the cream tarts. Good evening, old chap.
Oh, Mr. Goodall, Major Hammersmith. Oh, how I wish I'd never brought you to this infamous place. Oh, leave. Leave while your hands are still clean.
But our oath. We could not go back upon our oath.
Well, renounce it. Forget everything. Let them do their worst, but leave. Leave before it's too late. Hey, if you could have heard the old man scream as I pushed him from the parapet, the crunch of his brittle bones as he thudded to the pavement.
Yes, I perceive the dealing is about to begin. Shall we go in?
Yeah. Mr. Goodall, if you have any kindness in your soul, wish the ace of spades for me tonight. There's nothing left for me but to die.
Attention, gentlemen.
3 of hearts.
Queen of spades. Ace of diamonds.
Three times around and neither black ace has come up.
We are just 13 at the table.
This 4th round. This will tell the tale.
And I am next to last.
Ace of clubs!
Only 4 more cards.
King of spades.
Oh, pray for me, Mr. Goodall. Pray for me. I have 1 chance in 3. Pray that I get the ace. 6 of diamonds.
And now, I have 1 chance in 2.
My friend, don't.
Silence. Ace of spades.
Very well. That concludes tonight's play, gentlemen.
Oh, Mr. Goodall. I'd give $1 million if I had it for your luck.
I would sell you this card for much less if I could.
Well, Mr. Goodall, my congratulations. I am pleased to have met you, sir, and to have been in the position to do you this trifling service. At least you can't complain of delay.
Yes. And now, before I leave forever, I should like to ask a question. A purely hypothetical question, of course, since I am not a man to go back upon my word.
But you wonder what would happen if you did. If upon the turning of the card you had changed your mind and now wish to live?
Precisely. Suppose my friend, Major Hammersmith, and I elected to ignore our oath. Suppose we began by tearing this place apart.
You wouldn't even get started. The guests themselves are desperate men, but if they did not stop you, the servants, who are even more desperate, would. You would never leave this house alive.
I see. Well, it was purely an academic question.
Naturally.
Very well, then. What are my instructions?
You will proceed along the Strand in the direction of the city, on the left-hand pavement, until you come upon a black carriage with drawn curtains. In this carriage will be the member who has tonight drawn the ace of clubs.
My executioner.
Your collaborator in suicide. You will enter the carriage, and he will continue your instructions. Please have the kindness to obey him in every detail. The authority of the club is vested in his person for the night. I wish you a pleasant walk.
Thank you. But first I must say farewell to my friend, Major Hammersmith.
I regret that it's strictly against the rules. No farewells. Too disturbing for the still living members. You will leave through this side door to the workroom.
But I must have
We won't have any trouble now, will we, Mr. Goodall?
No. No, of course not.
Your coat and hat. Your stick.
Thank you.
Again, Mr. Godall. A most pleasant walk.
Death's private door. Why didn't I listen to Geraldine before it was too late?
All right.
What is this?
Advise you to be quiet if you know what's good for you.
My instructions are to meet the coach in the Strand.
You'll take this coach right now. Get in, will you? All right. Take this one away.
Your Highness will pardon the violation of his person.
Geraldine. Oh, my friend.
It was quite necessary under the circumstances. As soon as you turned up the ace of spades, I slipped out of the house to prepare for your escape.
But how did you manage it?
When I realized I could not dissuade you from attending the club tonight, I retained the services of a certain capable and reliable private detective.
But
His secrecy has been bought and paid for. His men are now raiding the suicide club. The members will be removed to your townhouse, where it remains for you to pass judgment upon them.
That I will gladly do, and with the utmost dispatch.
What have they brought us here for? They didn't look like Scotland Yard men to me.
What difference does it make? Perhaps this will be a quicker way out.
Gentlemen.
Why, that's my friend, Major Hammersmith.
His Royal Highness, Prince Florizel of Bohemia.
Bohemia. Why, that's Mr. Godall. Always thought there was something odd about those two.
Gentlemen, tonight we have removed you from a house of death to a house of life and hope. Those of you who have come to your present condition through lack of fortune will receive employment and remuneration from my treasury. Those who have been driven to this unnatural solution of their problems by the agonies of guilt must find amnesty from a power greater than mine. Power that eternally promises the forgiveness of sins, no matter how grievous. Only one of you is truly evil, and him I shall deal with myself. Where is he? Where is the president of the club? Colonel Geraldine.
Why, he should be here, Your Highness.
Begging Your Highness' pardon.
Who's this man, Geraldine?
The chief of the detectives.
Yes? What is it?
Was you referring to the sallow chap with the sawed whiskers and the black suit?
Yes, that's the one. The president of the suicide club. Where is he?
He ain't here.
Why not?
Well, when we broke into the little office down there at the club, we found him sprawled over the desk with a little empty bottle in his hand. He'd committed suicide.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and tonight brought you The Young Man with the Cream Tarts by Robert Louis Stevenson, adapted for radio by Mr. Robeson, with Paul Frees as Prince Florizel, Bill Johnstone as Colonel Geraldine, and Barton Yarborough as the young man. The special musical score was conceived and conducted by Cy Feuer. Next week,
after you've put in a tough day at the office or leaning over a hot stove, when your four walls seem to be closing in on you, next week when you want to get away from it all, we offer you Escape.
this is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Fed up with shoveling snow? Can't shake that cold of yours? Wonder what the world's coming to?
We offer you Escape.
You are alone in a remote village on the Welsh border, surrounded by silent townspeople who are watching and waiting for you to decide to lose your soul.
Escape, produced and directed by William N. Robeson, and carefully contrived to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight we escape to a remote section of Wales and a strange village between two worlds, as Algernon Blackwood described it in his eerie story, Ancient Sorceries.
I had spent a week's vacation in Wales and was returning to London by train when it all began. It was late afternoon. We'd left the Welsh mountains and crossed the border into western England, passing through a countryside which appeared singularly empty, deserted of life. Over the soft hills and the valleys between hung a faintly perceptible haze, given to the whole landscape a feeling of enchantment and unreality. The train at length slowed down to a stop at a tiny wayside station. As it did so, a sudden thought occurred to me. Why not leave the crowded train with its irritating noises and spend the night in this peaceful spot, then take a slower and emptier train in the morning? On the impulse, I rose from my seat, and the man sitting opposite to me said,
"Why, say, sir, we only stopped here for a minute or two. If you're thinking of walking about a bit..."
"No, as a matter of fact, I'm getting off here."
"I thought you were going to London."
"I'll go on in the morning. I'm going to stay here for the night."
"I strongly advise you not to."
I beg your pardon?
This is the village of Malton.
Malton? I've never heard of it.
Few people have, outside. But if you place any value on your soul, you'll not spend the night here.
My dear sir, what are you talking about? Why not?
Because of the sleep. And because of the cats. That's all I can tell you.
You're insane. I'll take my bag if you don't mind.
You're making a terrible mistake. You may not even have the chance to regret it. Don't leave this train. I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, but utter nonsense.
Don't, I tell you.
Goodbye. I stood there on the embankment as the train pulled away. What in the world was the matter with the man anyway? Cats, sleep. His words made no sense. I picked up my bag and started walking up the long hill toward the village. And suddenly, for no reason at all, I shivered. Hello? Hello, is anybody here?
Yes?
Oh, I didn't see you at first.
Is there something I can do for you, sir?
Why, yes, I saw your sign outside, the Inn of the Golden Bough. I should like to get a room, please.
You're planning to stay here?
Why, yes.
Very well. You may sign the register. Here.
Thank you. I'm going to catch another train and go on in the morning.
Oh, yes, of course.
There, well.
Arthur Llewellyn. Llewellyn?
Yes, from London.
Arthur Llewellyn. You've been a long time coming back.
What?
But now that you're here, you'll find there are some things that never change.
Madam, I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about.
You rang, madam?
Where did you come from?
Dundreary, the gentleman would like a room for the night. His name is Arthur Llewellyn.
Aye, so it is. Welcome back to Malton, sir.
What? Why, I knew I'd never been here before. What was it all about? First the man on the train, and now these people. Were they crazy, or was I? I left the inn and walked along narrow cobbled streets, beneath quaint gables leaning out from the silent, shuttered houses, through dappled pools of light and shadow. It gradually dawned upon me that the village of Malton was centuries old, older than any town in England ought to be. And the people I passed now and then were dressed in the fashion of another day. They paid no attention to me. They went silently about their own business.
Yes, that was it. That's what I'd been noticing. Silently. They came and went with only soft padding sounds to mark their passing, as though they walked in shoes with soles of velvet. When I stopped, there was no sound. The silence was unbroken. I hurried on through the streets and came at last to the far side of the village, to a place where the hill broke away sharply from a low, flat wall of stone, perhaps a rampart once. I sat down upon it, and the dreamy, lazy somnolence of the place stole over me. Presently, I don't know how much later, I became aware of the sound of weird music rising out of the vale below me. I looked down from the rampart. The sunken plain at the bottom melted away into a sea of gathering shadow, blurred in a swirl of thickening mist. I thought of dead trees swept by the night wind, of animals with half-human voices singing to a white moon, of the wailing of cats on the roof tiles at night, of unearthly creatures far off in the sky calling to one another in chorus. I felt my heart beat faster and faster, felt the vague stirrings of some urge inside of me, trying to answer the awful call of that music. I fought against the feeling, fought against myself. And even as I did, I found I was staring down into that valley, peering desperately into the dark mist, trying to see, I don't know what. And then suddenly, the music ended. I stood on the rampart alone, dusk fallen around me, and the early night wind moaned with a chill breath. Quick terror rose up in me. I turned and ran through the darkened streets, ran with my heart pounding, dodging its shadows, through one dim alley after another, and arrived at last panting and almost breathless at the door of the Golden Bower.
Been a long time returning, Mr. Llewellyn. It's past 7.
Oh, yes. I guess I walked farther than I meant to. I didn't realize it was so late.
You heard the music, didn't you?
Yes. Strangest music I've ever heard. How did you know? Who plays it, anyway?
Then you didn't remember it?
No. Why should I? The thing was becoming irritating, this quiet insistence that I was someone else. I went into my lonely dinner and ate as quickly as possible. Then, taking the candle Dundreary gave me, I crossed the lobby, climbed the stairs behind the desk, and walked past silent doors down the long empty hall that led to my room at the end. I was halfway to my door when suddenly the flame of my candle went out. I stood stock still in the pitch blackness, fumbling for a match. At that moment I knew that someone, or something, was there with me in the darkness. I held my breath and listened. There was no sound, no movement. I reached out and felt the wall and moved along it, feeling my way in the inky blackness. It was then I touched it. Near my face, another soft, warm, yielding, and alive. Who? What is it?
It is I, Ilsa.
Who?
Ilsa. Don't you remember me, Arthur?
No. No.
But wouldn't you like to remember me? Don't you want to see me again? To look at me? No?
I don't know.
But not tonight, Arthur. Perhaps tomorrow. Tomorrow.
I stumbled blindly through the door of my room and shut it behind me. I lit the candle and flung myself across the bed. The room was small, with one shuttered window, and the light of the flame flickered on the walls and ceiling. I stared at the hand that had touched her out there in the dark hall. I lifted it up to my face and smelled of the barbaric scent that still clung to my fingers. It was evil, maddening. The candle sputtered and burned, and the melted minutes dripped away. Who was I? Who were these people? Who was Ilse? I fell asleep finally and dreamed of soft-moving creatures and the silence of life in a dim, muffled world devoid of all feeling but ecstasy. And I dreamed, too, of cats.
Slept quite late this morning, Mr. Llewellyn.
Huh? Oh, morning, Dundreary. I felt as if I'd been drugged.
The night air here in Malton is very conducive to sleep.
I'd meant to catch the morning train for London. Now it's too late.
What a terrible shame.
Oh, by the way, Dundreary.
Yes, Mr. Llewellyn?
Do you, well, I was wondering if you'd know anyone by the name of Ilse.
Ilse happens to be my daughter, Mr. Llewellyn.
Oh, I didn't hear you come in.
I hope you were able to sleep well, without any unpleasant dreams.
I guess so.
I'm so happy to hear it. Perhaps then you may decide to stay with us for a long time.
That's very kind of you.
No, it isn't kindness, Mr. Llewellyn. But all of us are hoping that you may decide soon.
Decide? Decide what? It was no use. None of them would answer my questions. They seemed to think I should know already. I left the inn as soon as I'd eaten, walked around the streets of the village, and I began to notice that I was never completely alone. If I turned down an empty street, someone always stepped from a doorway or entered from the opposite end. Wherever I went, within 5 minutes, a dozen people were strolling near me. And I realized these people were watching me, tensely, as a cat watches a mouse or another cat.
It's quite fortunate you came back early, Mr. Llewellyn. Your dinner this evening is a rather special one.
Special? What do you mean by that?
You are to have a guest.
Huh? Who?
An old friend. She's coming now.
The girl who came toward us across the room was lithe and slim, and she moved with the sinuous grace of a young panther. She was lovely, exotic, and terrifyingly beautiful.
May I present Mr. Arthur Llewellyn, Miss Ilse? He's been with us for 2 days.
Yes, I know. My mother told me. May I sit down, Mr. Llewellyn?
Hmm? Oh, yes, please do. Here, permit me.
Thank you. You may sit, Andre.
Thank you, Miss Ilse.
Then you're Ilse?
Yes. Don't you remember me, Arthur?
From last night. It was you last night, wasn't it?
Yes. And other nights. Can't you remember all the other nights?
No.
Then we shall have to try that much harder. It's been such a very long time.
Please, Ilse, what is it all of you talk about? I don't understand any of it.
You will, Arthur. Unless you leave, of course. Weren't you planning to take a train to London in the morning?
Yes. No, I've changed my mind.
I'm glad you did. We'll try to make you happy here, my mother and I. And then perhaps you'll stay a long, long time.
No. I must leave for sure in a day or two.
Suppose we wait and see. And meanwhile, if there's anything you want, all you have to do is ask me.
All right. Why don't you tell me about...
Yes, Arthur? About what?
No. No, I don't want to know. I don't want you to tell me. Suddenly I realized I was afraid to know. Afraid. I should leave now, but I couldn't leave. It was Ilse. She attracted, repelled, fascinated, and horrified me, all in single flashes of blasting emotion. I felt the presence of a great gray curtain ready to roll back at any moment and leave me on the brink of an awful adventure. I knew the village held its breath, watched and waited, and then on the evening of the 5th day, the whole ghastly secret exploded into hideous life. After dinner, Ilse had asked me to walk with her. It was the first time I'd been outside the inn after dark. We walked through the village in the moonlight, saying little, and came finally to the stone rampart above the sunken plain. We were quite alone.
Look, Arthur.
Hmm?
It's a full moon tonight. Do you know what that means?
Yes. It means I can see more clearly how beautiful you are.
Do you really believe that? Do you think I'm beautiful?
Like a soft, sleek leopard in a warm jungle of shadows. But wait, I'll see you even better in a moment.
Arthur, what are you doing?
These dry leaves by the wall will make an excellent bonfire. There, you see?
No. No.
What's wrong?
The fire. No, Arthur, put it out.
All right, Ilse. There, don't worry. It's all right. I'd had a chance to get started. There, you see, it's all out.
Yes, I see.
Ilse, why did it bother you so much?
Don't you remember? Don't you remember the fire?
No. What fire?
Oh. No. Don't talk of it. Look at me instead. Look at me, Arthur.
Yes, Ilse.
Arthur, do you love me?
Yes. Yes, Ilse, I love you. I love you and I want you.
I'm glad. That means you'll come back to us then.
I don't know what you mean, Ilse.
You can know everything. Tonight, if you want to.
Yes, I do.
You must know a part of it already. Down inside. You must remember some of it, don't you?
Yes. It's like something buried for centuries inside of me, and now it's beginning to come alive.
Let it come alive. Don't fight against it. You belonged to us once, long ago, and you still belong.
Yes. I seem to know that.
That's why you came back. You heard them calling. You heard me calling. And you came seeking the old life again.
Yes. But Ilse, I'm afraid.
Are you afraid of me? Look at me.
Ilse.
Kiss me.
Ilse.
Will you live the old life again with me tonight?
Yes.
I've known that you would because I own you, Arthur. You belong to me and I want you and I shall never let you escape from me again.
Yes.
Go back to the inn then. Wait for me, Arthur. I shall come for you. Tonight.
Back at the inn, I paced the floor of my room. A tense, uncontrollable excitement driving me along in a nervous frenzy. The dry crypt of memory broke open and all the things I'd hidden away for centuries poured into my consciousness. I knew now why I'd come here. I knew what I was going to do. And I knew that I was lost. I sensed the rising stir of movement throughout the inn and outside in the courtyard below my window. I knew what to expect when I threw open the shutter. From every window of the inn and from those of the houses about the court were leaping great monstrous beasts with soft dark fur and eyes that gleamed with eerie phosphorescence. Cats, Cats of human size. This, then, was the secret of Malton. Lycanthropy. The witchcraft of centuries long dead and buried. The half-human cries floated up to me, and the moon cast her dark shadows on the ground as they padded across the courtyard and vanished through the narrow streets of the village, heading for a hideous rendezvous. This is what I'd been. This is what I wanted to be now. I scarcely heard the door of my room open behind me.
Are you ready, my love? Shall we join them?
Ilsa.
Here, Arthur. The sacred balm, made of vervain and mistletoe and blind things out of the sea. Remember?
Yes. Yes, I remember.
Take it. Use it. We'll change now, transform, leap from the window and join them. Lead us again, Arthur.
Yes, but not here, Ilsa, not yet. Wait until we get there. Then we'll change.
If you wish. Come then, Arthur, to the stone wall above the grove. That's where we'll change, on the stone rampart.
In the grove on the sunken plain beneath the wall, insane shadows writhed in the moonlight and postured in the luminous mist. 1,000 of the Devil's Own were dancing in the unearthly music born from the harmony of the black sacrifice, crying out in delirious abandon, calling to the thing that now lived inside of me, and struggled, screaming in my skull, trying to answer them back. I fought against them, fought against Ilsa, pleading and clinging with her soft arms about my neck.
Now, Arthur, come with me now if you love me.
I love you, but I can't do it, not again.
Yes, my love, only an instant to change, and then we'll live forever.
Is it living without a soul, Ilsa?
Does it matter when I'm here?
No, once before I escaped, but I can never escape again. This time there'd be no turning back.
Am I not worth it? Look at me, my love.
I clung to the very edge of my sanity, fought that I would not be lost and damned forever, and at this moment I knew what I could do.
Arthur, wait. What are you doing?
I found a match in my pocket, struck it, dropped it into the dry leaves that lay banked across the whole length of the stone wall.
No, Arthur, don't.
Yes.
I can't come to you through the fire. You're driving me away.
Yes! Go, Ilsa, go into the valley. Goodbye, Ilsa! Goodbye!
You fool! You fool!
I turned from the wall of flame that for a few minutes would shut me off from the valley, ran through the moonlight streets, not back toward the inn of the Golden Bower, but down the long road that led away from that cursed village of Malton.
Well, Mr. Llewellyn, I find this one of the most interesting cases of hallucination I've encountered since I began the practice of psychiatry.
I tell you, it really happened, Doctor.
And having investigated your story a bit during the past week, I'm in a position now to answer most of the questions that have been worrying you since you came back to London.
What do you mean, investigated?
I went up to Hereford and looked over some of the old records there. Then I motored over to Malton for a couple of hours.
Well, then you know it's all true. You saw it. You know I was there.
Oh, there's no question but what you were there, Mr. Llewellyn. The lady who runs the inn showed me your name in the register. Said you left suddenly without taking your luggage or paying your bill. She was really quite put out.
I see. Well, what of the records, Doctor? The ones you spoke of?
I think they really explain the whole thing, Mr. Llewellyn. It seems that during the 14th century, the village of Malton became a kind of headquarters in that part of the country for the practice of witchcraft.
Yes, go on.
Numerous trials were held there in the late 1300s, and a great many men and women were convicted of sorcery and burned to death.
Yes?
In the records of a trial in 1372, I found the name of an Arthur Llewellyn and of Ilsa and her mother.
That proves it, then.
It proves a clear case of hallucination. You knew that story before you went there, not consciously, but somewhere deep in your latent memory.
I knew nothing about it before.
That man was an ancestor of yours. The story must be known in your family. When you arrived in Malton, accidentally, the association of the name just pulled the trigger, and your imagination did the rest.
Yes, but Doctor, my parents died when I was 4. I've never been around any of my family ever.
No matter. You see, a childhood memory is amazingly persistent at times.
Yes. Yes. I suppose it is. I knew then what I had to do. The only thing I could do. There'd be no use in talking further with the doctor. He'd find some phrase of science to cover everything. He'd even try to explain away the mark I still carried across my shoulder where Ilsa had thrown her arm about me in those last mad minutes on the rampart. A mark that was covered with soft gray fur like the fur of a cat. I knew now what had to be done, and what must be done while I still retain my sanity. One last act, final and irrevocable. An act that begins by walking into the railway station at Charing Cross.
Good evening, sir. May I help you?
Yes. I'd like a ticket to Malton, please.
Malton? I don't believe I...
It's a little village on the Swansea line near the border of Wales.
Oh, yes. Here it is. I don't believe I've ever sold a ticket to Malton before.
I don't doubt it.
Let's see. 4 and 6, single fare, first class. Did you wish a return trip, sir, or one way? What did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. Make it one way.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson. And tonight brought you Ancient Sorceries by Algernon Blackwood, adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield, with Paul Frees as Arthur Llewellyn, Kay Brinker as Ilsa, Ann Morrison as Madam, and William Conrad as the Doctor. Music is conceived and conducted by Cy Feuer. Next week...
After you've had a hard day at the office or bending over a hot stove, next week at this time, when your problems seem too much for you, we offer you Escape.
Next week, we bring you another exciting story of high adventure. Good night, then, until the same time next week, when once again we offer you Escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.